Take it slow, baby, take it slow. Baby, we take it slow. Let's go and take it slow. Take it slow, take it and burn. Maybe you'll stay, maybe you leave, maybe you return. Maybe another fight, maybe you won't survive. You never know, yeah, yeah. You and I, we just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. Maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, oh, oh. This time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, oh yeah. This time we'll take it slow. Thank you. Then the sky shall get, then the night shall lose. So that Bible says, and it still it is new. Mama may have, and Papa he may have, but God bless the child that has got his own, has got his own. The light is on, yeah, yeah. Though the strong gets more, while the weak gets fade. Empty pockets don't ever cease to fade. Mama may have, and Papa he may have, but God, he bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own, that's got his own. When you've got money and you've got a lot of friends, they all seem to find your way back home. And when the money's gone, they will all just leave you. But don't just give up anymore. Rich people may just have, but the strongest weak. I said, empty baggers don't never, strong as weak. Mama may have.
Thank you very much to the West Coast band. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a round of applause. And for those of us joining us from across the world via Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook, you would notice that the applause is not so loud that they would have been in previous years because we obviously are not in normal times. Coronavirus has impacted us in many ways that we didn't expect. But welcome and thank you very much for joining us on this very special edition of the Stanford Seed Transformation Network Business Conference 2020. We're live across the world, as I indicated earlier, and thank you very much again. I must re-emphasize that you're joining us so we get to learn something new. We all get to take stock. We all get to embrace the change that have been imposed on us by coronavirus and other factors. My name is Johnny Hughes, and we will go straight on to start the conference. We will open the conference by hearing first of all from our president, Amba. She's president of the Stanford Transformation Network Ghana. She's also CEO of CAD Manufacturing Limited. Please put your hands together and welcome her.
Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you find yourselves. Our eminent conference speakers, Executive Director, Stanford Seed, business leaders and industry captains, my colleagues, elected executives and members of the Ghana chapter of the Seed Network, our sister chapters from Nigeria, East Africa, Southern Africa, and India, distinguished conference participants, our friends from the media, youth networks, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to share some thoughts as president of the network in Ghana. First and foremost, I would like to commend our past presidents and executives on whose shoulders we stand today for the work done in preparing a solid foundation to build on. I also welcome Darius Tete, Executive Director, Stanford Seed, and the various networks represented. This is a network of business leaders and CEOs of companies who have completed the Stanford University Graduate School of Business Seed Transformation Program. The network works closely with Stanford Seed to further strengthen and empower local Ghanaian companies through leadership labs, workshops, and other networking activities. The mission of our network is empowering and inspiring business leaders to transform and scale their organizations with integrity and purpose. This year's conference is entitled Embracing Forced Change Within Diverse Cultures. It is coming out of the challenges and opportunities created by COVID-19 pandemic, and we recognize the importance of acknowledging culture as critical in scaling up businesses as well as its integration into development strategies. Our panel of excellent speakers will speak to the various components of this theme and further make linkages to the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. All these contribute to Ghana's economic growth and directly to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and indirectly to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in the areas of SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure, SDG 17, partnerships. In this regard, I would like to thank Dr. Oteng-Gyasi, CEO of Tropical Cable and Conductor Limited, Ms. Esther Cobbah of Stratcom Africa, Dr. Michael Agyekum of Mikaddo Holdings Limited and Kama Group, and finally, lawyer David Ofosu-Dorte for graciously agreeing to unpack the conference theme and share insights that will help deepen our understanding to make use of critical information within current global infodemic. Other areas that keep reoccurring are issues related to funding, cost of doing business, and human resources. Informal discussions with individuals within the business sector confirm this. I hope the discussions would additionally provide alternative solutions within diverse cultural setups to learn from. It is hoped that we can get young people interested as an important constituency through skills transfer. As a woman, I would like to see more young women getting deeply engaged in the various industries represented by our network. Let us look at the opportunities of partnering educational institutions in curricular design to create the necessary human resource for industry. To our friends in the media, we can collaborate in providing requisite information and sharing them with the various constituents in Ghana and beyond, who can make good use of them to better their lives. It is hoped that such information can also get the attention of policymakers for policy formulation. I desire that today's conference will help answer a lot of nagging questions we all might be having and point us to solutions. My sincere gratitude goes to our conference organizing team for all the efforts in putting this together, even with the constraints posted by COVID-19 pandemic. Distinguished participants, please keep observing the protocols, wear your mask, social distance, and keep the hygiene regimen. I wish everyone a fruitful deliberations and an excellent conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for that very instructive introductory remark. And now the way is paved for all of us to get straight into it. We'll take some solidarity messages. We'll start first with a goodwill message by Darius Tita. Tita, he is Executive Director of Stanford Seed. We will cross over now onto Zoom and hear him.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I've been muted and now I'm muted. So I was just noticing in the chat function that it seems like half the participants are not able to hear very well and the other half are able to hear fine. So I just wanted to alert the organizing committee that there's something happening there. So I just very quickly, for those of you I haven't met, my name is Darius Teeter. I'm the executive director of Stanford Seed. I'm not wearing a t-shirt out of sign of disrespect. I'm wearing a t-shirt out of sign of hope. This was a t-shirt that we were supposed to distribute at the Big Network Summit in March that was scheduled to be held in India, and we had to cancel it because of COVID. I want you to know that these shirts are sitting somewhere in a storage room in India, and we fully intend to get together as a group and pass these out and have a fabulous 2 or 3 day global summit. So keep an eye on this space. There will be a Seed Transformation Network Global Summit somewhere in the world, and we'll get these damn shirts out of storage and pass them around to all of you. I just wanted to say just a few quick words. Oh, I can't share my screen, so I won't share my screen. What I wanted to say, first of all, was thank you to the leadership of STN Ghana, Linda, Carl, Eugene, Karen, and Jemima. What I've been reflecting on since the first lockdowns worldwide in April is the fabulous response of the Seed Transformation Network chapters. The statistics on the number of events that people have, that the network chapters have hosted and sponsored is quite amazing. Just to give you a few statistics, and this data is already out of date. There's been 20 different chapter-led COVID-related events to support business leaders across the Seed Transformation Network. Those events have had more than 1,300 participants. There's been at least 4 well-being events that we know about, and probably a lot more. And if you look at these events, most of them have been recorded. The quality has been just fabulous. The other thing I wanted to note is that activity on the Seed Transformation Network website has been fabulous. It's up 50 or 60%. We're getting 400 unique uses or views every month. So I think it's been really gratifying to see how much the network, all the network chapters, have risen to the challenge of COVID and supported each other as peers, which is exactly why it exists. And then the final thing I'd like to say is that As you know, we do the annual network survey to understand how we're all doing and our businesses are doing, and also to help us improve our programming. And the response rate has been extremely high this year, and I wanted to thank everyone for that. So this conference looks really interesting. The guest speakers, the topics, force change and diverse cultures. I can't think of a better, more relevant topic right now than that. And I look forward to learning from all of you. Thank you very much, and good luck with today's conference.
Thank you very much to Darius for that. We will also hear from Nigeria. We will go to East Africa and India, but also to remind you that this 2020 Stanford Seed Transformation Network Business Conference is a Ghana chapter initiative, and it's supported by this Sapphire Ghana Limited, Tama BNFT, Dream Oval Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Tie Printing in Kulanu, and CAD Manufacturing Limited. They've put some great support behind this, so we can all join across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also on YouTube. But let's go now to India. As you are aware, the Stanford Seed Transformation Network is across the world. We'll stop by in India to hear some solidarity message via Zoom.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It gives me great pleasure to be part of the Seed Transformation Network Business Conference organized by the Ghana chapter. Linda, thank you so much for inviting us from the India chapter, and it is indeed my honor to share this message of solidarity on this occasion. The Seed Transformation Network comprises of past participants from the year-long hands-on program organized by Stanford Seed, designed exclusively for CEOs, managing directors, and founders of businesses across Africa and India. The objective of this network is to be able to harness the power of the global seed community by connecting online, in person, and at events, and leveraging such connections to scale our businesses, thereby providing employment and opportunities in our countries. The global pandemic has brought about challenges in many of our businesses. It's crucial for each of us to reevaluate our business models and change, innovate, or adapt in these trying times. True to the spirit of the network's objective, this business conference organized by you couldn't have been timed better. Ghana chapter, hats off to you to be able to pull together this conference in the midst of this pandemic. This truly shows your commitment to the members of the network. The esteemed speakers who are to speak in this conference today come with rich experience, which I'm sure is going to immensely benefit the participants. On behalf of the India chapter of the Seed Network, I would like to extend my best wishes to the Ghana chapter. I'm sure this is going to turn out to be a wonderful conference. By inviting the India chapter to participate in this conference, you have taken a big step forward in building global ties. We commit to work with the Ghana chapter with an objective of building the network between the two countries and look forward to harnessing the power of this wonderful global network that Stanford Seed has provided us with. It's unfortunate that we had to call off the global summit that was scheduled to be held in India earlier this year. However, we do hope that once the pandemic passes, we would be able to organize the summit in person and eagerly look forward to welcoming all of you in India. Thank you so much and wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much, Team India, for all of that, those kind words. We'll go straight to East Africa. Well, we'll get to East Africa later, but we'll go to Nigeria because we do know that with all the challenges presently happening in there, we're also strong to know that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is set to happen headquartered here. But what has Nigeria got to say? Hello, Nigeria.
Hi, this is Brian. So thank you very much for the welcome. I'm Brian Hammond. I'm probably the newest chapter president in the network. Yeah, a few weeks ago, there's a new EXCO team here in Nigeria. Me, Jamila, Ife, and Adama. Yeah, so, and I think we have the biggest network globally, and we're looking forward to even do better. I want to thank Linda. Like Anuj said, and I was thinking to myself, apart from the Stanford organized events, this is the first chapter-led event that I remember this year, where it's actually, you know, the exco inviting everyone, and she wrote this beautiful letter as well, inviting us. Yeah, so that's really, really nice. It shows that we're all making efforts, especially Ghana, to collaborate more. I know many Nigerian companies here wants to do business in Ghana and other parts of the world. Luckily, Ghana is very close. And we're hoping after this, it makes it easier for that to happen as well. I'm sure at the end, Linda can also let us know how we can do business in Ghana, who to contact, how to contact, and so on. I really like the topic for today. Looking forward to it, have a lot of questions. So thanks to the entire Ghana team. I want to say something about the NSAS protests. Some of you have texted, called me, and seen the chaos going on in Nigeria over the past 3 days. Luckily, today is much quieter. We did have an attempted prison break in a part of Lagos today, not far from my house. It's actually a prison I've visited to help some prisoners out. But luckily, the police and army stopped that. There's not been as much chaos today. Hopefully nerves are calmer now, but we do hope all this ends up in the country becoming a much better place. And many members are actually in their way taking part in this, not necessarily as part of the network, but they're doing things to help drive this change. Because as C taught us, you know, we're leaders not just in our companies, but we have to think of the society, the country, and the continents. Yeah, so please, everyone, continue to pray for us. Thanks to the entire Ghana team again, and looking forward to the event. Welcome to all the Ghana chapter members. I know today, because of the crisis, everybody's thinking of their families, but so many of us registered. So thanks for the support to the entire network. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Brian Hammond. He is with STN Nigeria. Next, we'll go to East Africa. Right, we'll get back to those solidarity messages as and when we are able to have a clean feed. But now, let me quickly inform you that this network's exercise for this year, the Stanford Seed Transformation Business Conference 2020, is supported by the Sapphire Ghana Group Limited, Tama BNFT, Dream Oval, Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing, Inkulenu, CAD Manufacturing Limited as well. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and all of you watching us from across the world, it's time for some musical relaxation, and we'll invite the West Coast band, Papaya and his team, to give us some music.
Lion, of you, caught up in circles, confusion is nothing new. Flashbacks, one night, almost left behind. Scared of men time after. Sometimes you picture me, I'm walking. Time after time, ooh, time after time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time after time it is, and it's time now for us to have a very first presentation. Reminded that we're organizing this conference, the Stanford Seed Transformation Network Business Conference 2020, which is a Ghana chapter initiative under the theme Embracing Forced Change Within Diverse Cultures. It's important that you remember that as always. And we'd like to invite a very first speaker to share with us his keynote address. This gentleman majored in economics at the University of Ghana. He also studied law at the faculty of the University of Ghana, was called to the bar, and in 1989, he is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana and an honorary fellow of the Ghana Institution of Engineers. He is a former member of both the Council of Ghana Stock Exchange and the Council of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA. He has also chaired the University of Ghana Council and is a past president of the Association of Ghana Industries. Presently, he is a member of the board of directors of Zenith Bank and other companies that I cannot mention because the list is quite lengthy. He also is the managing director of the Tropical Cable and Conductor Limited and the chairman of the Western Road and Wire Limited. Married with 5 children, he understands business and he will speak it to us. Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyasi is our very first speaker. Let's hear it from ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you watching outside, open your ears widely and listen to knowledge shared in real words.
Thank you very much. It's like only yesterday that I remember Tralans Adi coming to visit me at home and telling me that he had come to Ghana on a mission. I wanted to know what his mission was. And he told me he was coming to set up a Stanford seed program here in Accra. We spent about 2 hours talking, having a coffee, and generally discussing business in Ghana and entrepreneurship and companies, SMEs, who is doing well and who is not doing so well and why. And so it's really a great pleasure for me to find out that the seed that he started has actually blossomed into what it is now. And when I look at the list of CEOs who have gone through the program, you know, from Mrs. Amba, whose clothing I used to buy a long time ago, Now she's grown so big, I don't know where to find her. You know, Sammy Printing, who's a very old friend, and we've shared many memories. He was vice president at AGI when I was president, and we've shared many memories together. So good afternoon to you all, and Madam President, Executive, and everybody here. Let me start formally by thanking you for this invitation to share my thoughts on matters which are relevant, very relevant for these times. First, some preliminary thoughts about change. When we talk about change, what are we talking about? Change implies something different, is it? Whether you use it as a noun or as a verb, it is change connotes difference, either to change something or something different. So change is always different. And for a business, change is a constant, because whatever environment you're operating in, you are sure that it is ever changing. So change is either what I would call an opportunity, or it can be a threat, and sometimes it can be both. The pace of change is also important for us to recognize. It can be slow, it can be rapid, and that is worth noting. It may also be planned and unplanned. The fact is, you can plan and effect change, or change will happen and find you. So as a business, you need to be aware of it. And then it could be predictable. Of course, if you plan it, maybe you can predict it. So change can be predictable, but worst of all, it can be unpredictable. But I think above all these, what we should recognize is that it is inevitable. It will happen by all means. And that alone makes it worth talking about. And the inevitability of change, I think, was rudely brought to the fore between late last year and early this year when COVID-19 struck. And this was highly visible change, caused, of course, by an invisible virus, at least not visible to the naked eye, and resulting in a rapid slowdown across the world, in national economies, in businesses, and even in social life. And as the infection numbers rose, business indicators declined, and the quality of social life changed. We don't even know if the change has stopped and how long it will last. Some say it will never be the same again. Whatever it is, it has changed. Working from home, virtual reality. I was just discussing with colleague panelists about virtual meetings and the technology and all that. These have become the norm, along with social distancing, hand washing, and face mask wearing. The unique thing about this particular change, was that it was forced on us, like you aptly recognize in your theme. Forced on us, much like, and it's much like a flood or an earthquake, some natural cataclysm which you cannot do anything about. For better, for worse, businesses were forced to embrace this change in order to stay alive. There was no other option. Either embrace it and adapt, or you would go under. And the most noticeable feature of this forced change, and I suppose is also the essence of forced change, was the absence of time to consider a response. The change had to be embraced and strategies implemented without the usual luxury of, piloting and test panels and, consultations, stakeholder meetings. All of a sudden, you had to find something to do. And so indeed, the absence of time to consider a response is as noteworthy as the unpredictability of the change. And as businesses, we should be aware of this. Of course, most businesses, or very many businesses, suffered. Some just managed to hang on, but a few actually thrived. And our lessons should come from looking at those who survived by asking how they survived and maybe asking why they survived. Businesses which think and prepare for change as a matter of course and have this sewn into their very DNA survived best. In essence, opportunity-seeking and threat-avoiding companies did best. The question is, do you have that in your DNA as a business? And I'm talking irrespective of the size of the business, huge, big, medium, small. A business has to be nimble and ready to adapt. I'll just look at one example for our consideration. We all know that the airline industry is one of the most badly affected by this forced change on the world. But there are a few shining stars there, surprisingly. And the one which struck me most was an airline called Ethiopian Airlines. Ethiopian Airlines responded to COVID-19 by emphasizing cargo as against passenger traffic. And when you look at it critically, it looks like it's almost as if they had a rapid response culture in the airline. And I'm sure one day when somebody does the detailed studies as to how they survived, I am confident that the rapidity of their response will indicate something the company has and which every company should plan to have. As of September 2020, that is just, a month ago, the airline had avoided seeking a bailout. All the other big airlines in the world were looking to their governments for bailouts. It had avoided laying off any full-time employees. And it had avoided, most surprising of all, requesting deferrals on debt payments. Indeed, the CEO, Tiwold Abraham, said in an interview that he was ready to report a profit of $44 million for the first half of the year. And this is an airline. And just to emphasize the size of the airline, Ethiopian is the largest airline in Africa, of course, maybe the oldest surviving airline out of Africa. It is the fourth largest in the world by number of countries served, and it operates 125 aircraft. And as other airlines across the world sought bailouts and laid off staff, Ethiopian embraced the forced change and thrived on its own. And this is the result of speed in decision-making and, equally important, agility in implementation. So you need to have the rapid response force and you need to know how to go about it. How does one plan for unforeseen change? We cannot go through a whole lot of scenarios here, but one of the simpler answers, which is coming out more recently in management is the fact that maybe it is time to plan some redundancy in your business model. Of course, this is easier done in industries like ICT and manufacturing. We know that business schools everywhere in the world teach maximization of manufacturing equipment usage and just-in-time ordering. I mean, those are the mantras. But I think that some redundancy in manufacturing capacity and even raw material availability has benefits which can outweigh the cost considerations. And that is when you are planning for a business to be a long-term business and not short-term planning. In the ICT industry, we saw Netflix. I mean, Netflix, in the midst of the shutdown, was hit, if you like, with a huge surge in demand for its products, for its services, for its movies and films, and et cetera, et cetera. And the availability of redundancy in Netflix's business model made it rise almost spectacularly to the challenge and brought, of course, generous returns. I haven't heard of anybody say, I tried to get to Netflix and I was shut out for lack of capacity. It shows how much redundancy they had in their model. The ability to plan for change is also heavily dependent on the internal culture of the business organization. And I'm not going to define culture, except to say that, of course, culture varies from place to place. That is obvious. And then I also like to note, and every business should note, that there is no wrong culture and there is no right culture. You cannot go anywhere and say that this culture is wrong and this is not what I'm used to. You cannot judge culture if you are a business, and you shouldn't. There is no good culture and there is no bad culture. There is, however, internal culture as within the business, and external culture being the environment in which the business exists and operates. And to embrace change of any sort, the internal culture of the business must seek the opportunity in every change situation. And in particular, when the change is forced, then the ability, the know-how, the internal culture is to find and recognize the opportunity which is coming, because no change comes without an opportunity. I mean, for those of us with Christian theology, we say that anytime a window is closed, you can be sure another is open. Now let's just take a minute and look at other cultures, as in cultural, the environment in which you operate, you know. And when we talk about operating in diverse cultures, different countries, I mean, the norm everywhere else is our large multinational companies who operate in dozens of countries or whatever, you know. But note that even within the same country, and for SMEs in particular, note that even within the same country, there can be amazing cultural diversity. I mean, I remember many years ago when I was working for a large multinational oil company, and I was sent off to Tamale to do some work, in fact, to open an office there. And I went away knowing that it wasn't a particularly nice time of the year. Harmattan would just be around the corner. And I had programmed that definitely latest mid-December, I'll be back on my way to Accra for Christmas and New Year break, you know. And of course, I was then a young, newly appointed regional marketing rep. And That was the first time I was working independently, away from head office. And it was my first trip to the north. And driving up, I remember from Accra through Kumasi to Tamale, I could see the difference in everything, from the language, the dressing styles, the religion, architecture. I mean, it was like I was driving into a different country. The vegetation, it was all different. And the culture was definitely different. And as Christmas got nearer, surprising for me, there was no indication of the festive spirit I was used to in Accra and Kumasi. I mean, with Christmas approaching. This was an Islamic part of our country. And farming, you know, agriculture is a major preoccupation in the north. So, I mean, I could see tractors and combine harvesters and fields and all that. And in conversations with my colleague, other multinational sales reps in the area, I realized that everybody was looking forward to going down for Christmas as Harmattan started, and everybody thought how fast to go to get away. And in my young mind, I began to think that, but this is agric. And up north there, the farmers, the big time farmers, in those days, there were huge rice farms. And they were our customers, big customers, you know. And it just struck me, I mean, sheer luck. I don't think that I had the ability to think through it, but sheer luck, maybe God's blessing or something. But why do I leave Tamale in the middle of the harvesting season? And that was the harvest season, and go back to Accra, you know? So I decided that I was going to stay through Christmas. I mean, my family was upset. I was unmarried, of course, but you know, and all that. Then, you are not coming down for Christmas? And I said, no. And it proved to be one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. As the other guys went south, I had a field to myself. And from farmer to farmer, I just signed them on, because they were so relieved to have a company whose rep was available at Christmas time. And on Christmas Day, when I got out of my home, everybody was going to work. There was nothing like Christmas. It was a full working day. So later on, later in February, when I finally got back to head office, and I said that, look, we need to change our whole policy about national holidays and things if we are going to do well in there. And that was half the country, or maybe half by geographical area, you know. And this was an opportunity which the company completely embraced, and it did lots of good to my career. I had adapted myself to the new culture, and we reaped the results. You know, as several large-scale farmers switched their business due to our continued presence, like I said, whereas others had gone away for Christmas. The point, I think, is to be receptive and adaptive to different cultures. And cultural diversity should rarely be seen as an opportunity. I will end by repeating the slogan of a well-known bank and urge you to remember the slogan every day in your business. And that is, think global, but act local. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, indeed, Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyasi. Grateful for your instructive words and nuggets of wisdom. Well, thank you very, very much indeed. We will move on. And just to remind you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen here, and those across the world on Zoom, and I see many of you joining via Zoom. Invite a few more others to join us. You can't drink alone from this well of wisdom. And this year's theme is embracing forced change within diverse cultures. I also like to remind you that this is a Ghana chapter initiative. The Stanford Seed Transformation Network Conference 2020 is a Ghana chapter initiative. And also, would like to quickly remind you that this initiative is supported by Sapphire Ghana Limited, by Tama, BNFT, Dream Oval, Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing, Nkulenu, and CAD Manufacturing Limited. We'll cross over now to East Africa and get to hear their solidarity message earlier that we missed. And then when we come back, I'll bring you yet another inspiring speaker. Thank you very, very much indeed. Next, we shall bring on a very great woman who 26 years ago started a dream that will become the talk on the African continent in terms of communication. She grew that company from a study table through a shipping container to a multiple award-winning organization. Please welcome CEO of Stratcom Africa, Esther Cobbah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and it's such a delight to be here. The story continues. While Strallons was talking to you in your house, somebody from Seed was also talking to me at Stratcom Africa. And what did they want me to do? It was to give orientation to the coaches that came from outside so that their engagement with the Ghanaian cohorts would resonate with them. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. We were also asked to help introduce the SEED program to Ghana, to different stakeholders. So stakeholder engagement was key. And I thought that this is an organization that will succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, my topic this afternoon is scaling up in diverse cultures. And it is a pleasure to be part of the Stanford Seed Network Conference. Pardon me, this is working with two hands, and I should point it over there. Kofi, can you take care of this? He will. Yeah. Give it to him, please. Thank you. I indicated that it is a pleasure to be part of this conference. And no doubt, you're all participating from the comfort of wherever you decided to participate from. We do not have to spend time and resources to get from our homes or offices to physical meeting points these days. But still, we are here and we're meeting and seeing each other's faces, albeit inside cyberspace. I want to say that virtual is the new culture. And this is all over the world for meetings and conferences. And we're all adapting to this. We did have to ensure, though, that our device for joining was working, that we have access to internet. The new culture has its demands, and we ensure that we meet those demands. Barely 9 months ago, none of us would have imagined holding such a conference virtually. But here we are today, responding to the realities imposed by COVID-19 pandemic and adjusting to the new ways of doing things, the new culture, what we are calling the new normal. In fact, if it had been decided to hold a physical conference in the current circumstances, many of us may have questioned the wisdom of doing that and even been reluctant to attend. Let me talk about cultural realities and business. So we can immediately acknowledge that what we as human beings have to confront in our lives shapes the ways of thinking, our ways of life, and our ways of work. Therefore, culture evolves as we find solutions to our life's circumstances in our different social contexts. I'd like to repeat that. Culture evolves as we find solutions to our life's circumstances in our different social contexts. Businesses exist to serve people, and people are located in the cultures in which they find themselves. Business offerings are designed to respond to human needs expressed in various cultural norms. Thus, an appreciation of the cultural context in which a business operates is critical for growth, survival, and profitability. For a business to succeed, therefore, a context analysis is required to help determine the cultural realities that the business offering has, whether a product or a service or both is intended to respond to. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see how global brands such as UAC, now Unilever, Coca-Cola, Nestle, etc., have over the years been able to succeed in different cultures. Beyond their home countries, they have been able to establish themselves in other cultures and even establish strong local brands in different societies. How have they been able to do this? By delivering to the local context products that are considered culturally appropriate while meeting fundamental human needs. UAC products such as key soap have for decades become staples in homes in Ghana, including seemingly remote rural homes, because they have become culturally accepted. I remember growing up in Comenda. We watched all these UAC, key soap, Pepsodent movies in the evenings. And Comenda is still relatively rural. You can imagine in the 60s what it was. They were there. Gaining an appreciation of the cultural context helps determine how the offering is presented. Thus, Coca-Cola runs a campaign using Ghanaian day names to connect culturally and resonate with the target market. Again, while KFC in the US, for instance, serves side dishes like biscuits, and macaroni and cheese, in Ghana, the side dish offered is jollof rice. It strikes me that local companies sometimes take our local culture for granted, and the previous speaker touched on this, and therefore may not pay attention to cultural realities and make their pitch in a manner that strikes a chord with customers. This is especially unfortunate since it leads to yielding ground to foreign companies. Having regard to the diversity of cultures that our social context involves, different ethnic groups with different languages, belief systems, and traditions, local companies need to show their cultural sensitivity. It is for good reason that multinational companies, again, target local festivals as important occasions for their marketing communications efforts. It is also, of course, true that some of these efforts are based on superficial, even mistaken understanding of the cultural realities. A scientific, not a casual approach is required to ensure appreciation of the social context and diverse cultures which are in the target market. I want to look at communication for breaking down cultural barriers. The key to engaging with any culture is communication. And business, which seeks to scale up across cultures, clearly has to develop communication strategies that enable it to cut across the cultural barriers, which may be in the way of its reaching potential customers. There has to be recognition, especially by leadership, of the value to be derived from such strategies, rather than assume that because what the business has to offer is good, it will be readily accepted by the intended audiences. It is unfortunately the case that organizations tend to focus on everything but their communication. There is more attention to the hard aspects of the business, the financials, the operations, and the engineering related to that than to the soft aspects like communication. The communication needs of various constituents are often not considered a central part of a business, for instance, until there is a crisis. At that point, a lot of resources may be thrown in addressing the crisis situations, while systematic prior investment in communication could well have avoided the crisis situation, or at least provided a context for greater effectiveness in addressing the crisis. We like to throw money at being admitted in hospital. We don't throw money at preventing what takes us to hospital. Business success in any culture requires understanding of how that culture influences perception of and attitude to the business and its brand, products, and offerings. That is at the core of communication work. Where the business has to work in diverse cultures, communication is all the more important to reach people in each cultural context. The COVID-19 pandemic has also put a spotlight on the importance of communication in nations, communities, organizations, and across the diverse cultures of the world. The huge cost in human terms of poor, inconsistent, or false communication have also been dramatically projected. Let's look at COVID-19 as an opportunity. Crises heighten the appreciation of the value of communication. The extended crisis period of the COVID-19 pandemic offers the communication function in government agencies, corporate organizations, as well as international organizations, the opportunity to gain the needed attention of leadership to the imperative of strategic communication. The virtual space offers opportunities for corporate-wide interaction and interdepartmental collaboration that might typically occur in the physical office space context. The whole organization may be assembled in a virtual meeting, which would not be feasible physically. Reassuring visibility and communication from the CEO to the whole organization in the crisis period is made possible. The virtual space also presents opportunities for development communication globally. Perspectives from communities and nations can be shared on common virtual platforms as part of developing strategies for post-COVID-19 resurgence, as we are doing now. Let's look at the virtual space and communication. Communication is also vital to harnessing the new opportunities from the now crucial and ever-growing reality of virtual space for the benefit of individual livelihoods, communities, nations, and humanity at large. The virtual space may be interesting ways to offer greater scaling up opportunities across cultures. The availability of Zoom and similar technologies to connect people across the globe enables even small businesses to reach out beyond what was possible physically and thus extend their market tremendously. A signature annual corporate social responsibility event that our company Stratcom Africa coordinates, the Ghana Garden and Flower Show, is now virtual this year, and we are excited about the broader reach of our effort to contribute to the realization of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the message of a greener, cleaner, healthier, wealthier, and more beautiful Ghana. As we participate in this virtual meeting, we should also reflect on the fact that the vast majority of Ghanaians do not even have access to the infrastructure, the Wi-Fi, which would enable them also to be active participants in this new culture, which of course has consequences for anyone doing business in our environment. That again illustrates already the diverse worlds, the diverse cultures that are at play, even as we seek to achieve our various business goals. In the context of developing countries, particularly, there's an urgent need for intensive communication about the virtual space itself, so as to enable a better appreciation of how the space works and ensuring wider and increasing access. For rural and poor communities, the extensive reach of FM radio stations and the explosive growth of mobile telephony are available building blocks for their effective incorporation into an experience of the virtual space and for them to access the benefits. Let me quickly look at organizational culture and internal cohesion. There is a basic requirement for successfully implementing this perspective about the role that culture plays in business growth. We have to recognize that individual mindsets of personnel, their lifestyles, gender, all of that contribute to the development of an organizational culture. An organization needs to understand this and recognize how this plays with a culture outside the organization so that they can be effective internally. Communication and business expansion. How often should we employ communication as a tool for scaling up in diverse, how should we employ communication for scaling up in diverse cultures? It is necessary to invest in communication research as part of business feasibility studies and have a communication component as part of your business strategies. It is also important to ensure that communication is not left in the hands of non-professionals. Just as you would not leave your finance department or your legal department or your scissors and your fabric in the hands of non-professionals. I often say that one's ability to take paracetamol when in pain does not make one a medical professional. In fact, self-medication, if not well handled, could lead to unfortunate consequences. Sadly, however, it seems that when it comes to communication, it is thought that the mere ability to speak, write, or post on social media makes one a communication professional. Strategic business communication is required. Let me just quickly talk about scaling up the right way, and I will conclude. To scale up a business in the current global context is not primarily about staff headcount. Technological transformations are reshaping business and society. As noted in a recent report of the World Economic Forum, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated technology adoption to business and consumers. I remain excited about the fact that during the COVID-19 period, we at Stratcom Africa have embraced the virtual culture and evolved or transformed aspects of our work, called the COVID Prefect, a cartoon series that educates the public about COVID-19 prevention protocols, which normally would have been created in our offices by the creative team and recorded in a studio, was done by our staff working remotely from their homes and using community voices, also recorded remotely and brought together. The co-cartoon series has been very impactful. And when I end, I will ask for one clip to be played. It's just about a minute. Productivity improvements and cost savings that accrue from recourse to virtual communication can justify investments being made to improve the technology infrastructure for the virtual space to be even more widely used in the business and improve returns. Investments also in retraining existing employees are urgent aspects of scaling up businesses. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I would say that scaling up a business is crucially about skilling up employees and enabling them to own the vision to make an impact externally. Given the diverse cultures that need to be addressed, communication with the requisite cultural sensitivity, as well as awareness of effective means of achieving expanded reach, are essential for success. I am pleased to be part of this platform of the Stanford Seed Program in Ghana. Your emphasis on being a transformation network is particularly on point. I can see this network creating more successful businesses in Ghana that reach out to the world beyond with its diverse cultures. You are an important lever to the attainment of more successful businesses in Ghana and the value these will bring to the nation and beyond. Some may see COVID-19 as forcing certain changes in our lives. In reality, I think the changes we are making are not really forced on us, but present are taking up transformation opportunities that generate human progress. The ability of billions of people throughout the world to communicate across virtual space and reach out to seek and share relevant, valuable information, as well as access livelihood enhancement opportunities, the capacity of businesses to expand their horizons and improve productivity can become positive, lasting legacies of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, communication can serve as the enabler of these legacies across our diverse cultures. Scaling up in diverse cultures requires scaling up communication. As we say at Stratcom Africa, we get your message down to raise your bottom line. Thank you very much. Just 1 minute of the COVID prefect.
Thank you very much.
jump for risky, please. Open your mind. Let's go. Everyday go. Yeah, I don't think this thing is up. Need this face mask. Tie up. There's a bread. Baby, I'm in town live.
Please, where are you going? You don't like your life now. The coronavirus is real. If you do not have anywhere important to go, just stay at home to stay safe. If you have to step out, then make sure you are wearing a face mask. We all need to play our part to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Now, please, stay at home.
I hear you.
Thank you very much. I told you we have embraced the change with diverse cultures. We have scaled up. But before we move on next to talk about how to position your business post-COVID-19, we'd like to cross over to our Kenyan network, the STN Kenya, to hear from them via Zoom. Hello, Kenya.
Hi, how are you? Thank you very, very much. I hope I am loud and clear. My name is Joanne Mwangi. I'm the East African Network President. And today I'm very, very honored and excited to be joining this conference from Nairobi, Kenya. I want to say that as East Africa, we are very, very proud of our Ghana chapter because we have seen the great work you have been doing. I want to congratulate President Linda Amba, who has done great work and who I want to tell you is already embracing trade across Africa in line with AFTA. And even the dress I'm wearing today is actually manufactured by her. So thank you and congratulations. I'm very proud of that. I know you cannot see much of it. I also want to say that one of the key areas as we deal with the theme of embracing forced change is talking about one, the fact that we must not waste a crisis. Every crisis is an opportunity, and we need to make sure that for every crisis, we do not waste it. COVID has been one of those that has taught us a lot. And for most businesses across Africa and the rest of the developing world, we have gone through a period where you have either been thriving, surviving, or flatlining. And for us, one of the things we have learned very quickly, thanks to Stanford seed program, is that the support from the strategy that we have been enjoying pivots us as quickly as possible for those who are flatlining, helps those who are surviving to prepare for change, which is surely coming, and also helps those who are thriving to always remember that this is just a season and change is coming. If there's one thing I would like to say, and which gratifies me greatly, is the fact that as the seed networks across the world, the greatest benefit that we have is the friendships and the business connections that we are able to have. Our connectivity is the greatest pride that we can enjoy. So I want to say that during this conference, all the things that we hear, all the things that we are listening to will be things that we directly apply and are practical to us. I've had the pleasure of listening to the chairman of Zenith Bank. I've had the pleasure of listening to Esther, my sister Esther from Stratcom, who has actually spoken extremely well, because as a communications expert like myself, I could completely understand what she was saying. And I think for all of us as leaders, those are some of the key factors that we would have: effective communication, cross-cultural analysis, adapting quickly to change, and of course, having a forward-looking positive attitude. So I wish you the very, very best as we continue with this conference. And I want to congratulate you once again, Ghana, for such a great thing to do. This is one of the best things that has happened during the COVID season. And we are very, very proud of you, especially for those of us who really missed out because we had plans to go to India for the network conference. Thank you very much. All the best and a wonderful afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, STN Kenya Rep. Joanne Wangi Yelbert for that. Grateful for your time as well. And thank you for all of you joining us and staying on with us. I can see most of you making comments down there. Thank you. We will move on at this point and talk about how to position your business post-COVID-19, because that's the big talk of town. And mind you, at the center of all of this, we're talking about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is headquartered here. We're starting all of this new revolution to make sure African businesses are properly positioned. And the agenda is being started here at the annual flagship business and leadership conference known as the Stanford Seed Transformation Network. Is a Ghana chapter initiative. Our next speaker is a royal. He is the Nkoswa Hene, that's the Nkabom Hene, I beg your pardon, of the unity chief of the New Job in traditional area. He's a counselor, a lecturer, a minister of the gospel. He's a consultant, and he's also a teacher. He wants to leave a legacy, a bank of knowledge that will make sure that many young businesses spring up and they are properly mentored to become not only small businesses, but they become big giants, global giants across the world. He is a pharmacist by profession and an entrepreneur by vocation. He is also the CEO of the Mikaddo Holdings. That's what we've known over the years as the Kama Group. Please put your hands together and welcome Dr. Michael Agyekum Addo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When Linda gave me the topic, I was wondering why now that you require a change. Because you should have had this innovative mind before COVID. Because there's so much going on in the world that should have already challenged you to change the way you do your business. You don't need COVID to force you to change and position your business anyhow. So I've just categorized some challenges. Global economic crisis. Our mighty United States of America is having economic problems, let alone Ghana. And if you are borrowing 100 billion US dollars, ask how much America is also borrowing. Global unrest, migration everywhere, wars everywhere. Then natural disasters, which COVID is part of it. Before COVID, we were having climate change, tsunami, hurricanes, floods, fires all over. Before COVID, we had a problem from the proliferation of ICT. Now we also have what is now an albatross to us, the Generation X. That's my own coinage. What is Generation X? It's the type of human beings that we are bringing up. These people are unique and different from us. 40 years and above are unique, are different. But from 0 now till about 30 years, they are different. They do all sorts of things at the same time. You see your son with his laptop. The television is on. He has his radio. He has his earphones. And you wonder what he's doing. Jojo, what are you doing? He said, I'm studying. How can you study like this? So what is the earphones for? There's music at the background. How? And this is showing exactly in our churches, in our homes, everywhere. In fact, at work, I see it clearly. I have about 450 staff, and I see that they are different. When you go to church, as the pastor is giving the sermon, you hear the noise from the organist at the background. It irritates me. It worries me. When we are praying, the same background. Why? And then my children tell me that, oh, you know, Dad, when the room is so quiet, it's noise to us. Hey! Is that it? So you hear from the youth, preach on. Yeah. All these things are making them behave differently. So when you employ them, you give them a job, within 1 hour, he's finished. Why? Because you didn't add on a lot of things. Give them about 5 different tasks, and they will do it. They are different. Generation X, they want things quick. And that's from that which is so unnatural to do things quickly. Very unnatural. It's making them frustrated. They seem not to have anything to do. So you watch them, and in their homes, in their rooms, they're watching soccer or films, and at the same time eating. They don't realize that they could be choked. No. At the same time, talking on the phone to their friends about 4 different things at the same time. And I'm warning them that with that attitude, when you have nothing doing, you get frustrated, you get addicted to either whatever, alcohol, if it's alcohol, visiting friends, talking to friends on the phone, on WhatsApp. It goes to divorce rate. But the guy is seriously on his laptop or on his phone. Who about you? Who are you, the wife? So even though women want attention, and they think that the husband is in the house, so he'll give him the attention. The attention is, their first wife is the computer. So you are a second person, you have to understand it. It goes on, and so there's so much confusion, even in our faith and our moral decadence. Everything is changing. And for that matter, we, the employers, are also finding it difficult to employ somebody that you have got to give jobs so many times at the same time that they will do. Meanwhile, they don't have the initiatives. They cannot create anything for you. You have to give them. You are expecting him to add on, to add value to it, but you are not getting it. So you prefer to use the software and not the human beings. So it's creating a mass of people being educated, but they have nothing doing. So creating unemployment. So that's the kind of analogy I've given in the picture, that there's so much graduates from the box that we are churning out, and they're all going to look out for job center. They are going to the job center on the right. So they have nothing doing, and this is serious. And since the population is increasing, and the industries are not increasing correspondingly, what will happen? The future can be bleak. From Kuratko, who is an authority, he says that we are experiencing an information and entrepreneurial revolution in the world. And this revolution will be as powerful to the 21st century as the Industrial Revolution was to the 20th century, if not more. And dear participants, I would like you to note the word revolution. It will not wait for you, and it's moving on. In the 19th century was slavery and slave trade. And those who had so many of these big, stout people to till the land for them in Europe and America, they became the rich. The slave masters were the richest people. In Ghana here, those who had several wives and several children, 50, they were seen to be the richest people in our communities. Then in the middle of that 20th century, from 1900 to 2000, that we had our independence, 1957. Our first president realized that there was an industrial revolution. Slavery has been abandoned, has been abolished. And so people were using machines to till the land, to make tablets, to do textiles. So machines started, industrialization all over. So we in Ghana, even in Africa, embarked on industrialization. So 1957 all the way to 1966, Nkrumah had to push the sea at Tema and made industrial city. Every region had a factory. We were Ghana. We had 16 ships, Black Star Line. We had Ghana Airways, about 20 aeroplanes. We're doing well. So after the coup, I personally would expect that the subsequent government would have embarked on the industrialization. Rather, it was abandoned. So we joined those without machines. And dear friends, in the 60s, we were assembling cars, Mercedes-Benz in Ghana here. We're making our own television and radios. We're making our own ever-ready batteries. Industrialization. But when we abandoned it from 66 to date, we became poor and poorer. And by the end of the century, 2000, we had become one of the poorest countries in the world. So by 2004, we had to go and sign on highly indebted poor country. And dear friends, I came to inform you, had our people, our government official from 66 to date, had known that industrialization was the key, they wouldn't have abandoned some of these things. The same thing is happening now. And that's why I'm happy to share my thoughts with you. That there is a revolution going on. And if you didn't know, you'll be swept away. And you individually will also go and sign on highly indebted poor person, not poor country. So what do we have to do? There are solutions. One, you have to be aware that there's a revolution, that things are not the same. Positioning your business means that you have a business now, but I'm telling you, you can collapse in no time. You can collapse in no time. So be aware. And being aware requires a change of the mindset, which my previous speakers have been talking about. Is the change of the mindset will make you identify opportunities with your eyes, with your ears, your nose, your tongue. All these 5 sensory organs will help you identify opportunities. Don't be lazy. Just seize the opportunity immediately and then start. And that is the message I'm giving you. So this is the brain. And science has shown that we have the left and the right lobes of the brain. Science has also shown that they work differently. Whereas the left does a lot of things. I'm giving you that of the brain and what they do. So the right-hand side of the brain handles color, rhythm, that's music and dance, imagination, talents, creativity and innovation, entrepreneurship, which is a revolution, all coming from the right. So if you are sitting here and you are watching me and listening to me, and you don't value art, you don't like how to dance, there's something wrong with your right-hand side of your brain. Which means that your imaginative power is also poor. There's something wrong with it. Or that you be imagining, dreaming of snakes chasing you. No. If you have the right frame of mind with the right side of the brain, which you have developed, you will dream better dreams. So when the Americans say dream big, then you are going to dream all snakes from the Bible, 10 of them from Pharaoh chasing you. No. They were swallowed by one snake, so forget about that one. Now, the left handles language, logic, analysis, details, arguments. So I realized, that's why Ghanaians, we like arguments on the FM stations. We argue, because we have developed the left brain, which is the academic side. Logic, analysis, it's all academic. Mathematics and science, it's all academic. And that's the left-hand side. Even the parents, we hammer. What was your results? What did you get? First class. So we are all going, that time is over. Academic time is over. And I'm giving you a prophecy, the next 10 years. If you do not change your mindset into the revolution that we are talking about, information technology, entrepreneurial, you will have your PhD all right, but you'll be the poorest. In as much as our fathers that had several wives and children but did not take them to school, after the independence, they became poorer. Who has value for people with 2, 3 wives and 20 children? We will even laugh at you. Those people that went to school filled the managerial positions, and then they became richer. Now, they are using their education even to dupe the country, to dupe companies, to dupe. Now, I go to my accounts department and I say, what's happening? My checks are bouncing. Meanwhile, we have so much money that should flow in. they are changing the zeros by their IT knowledge that they have. So what are we talking about? So the left-hand side people, whom the society also recognized and admired, and we're giving them some bonuses called salaries and wages. That time is over. At the beginning of 2000, when we are entering the 21st century, society has recognized that those using their right hands of the brain have been cheated for all these years. So we are compensating them exponentially. And that's why the talented people, the footballers, they take home $400,000 a week. They can pay the salaries of all lecturers put together at the University of Ghana. The future is now for talents. Gebre Selassie, with his sprinting, has changed the economy of his country. Abba people, who were the musicians, they changed. So now, entertainment has the future. So if you are talking about positioning your business in COVID-19, I'm saying that don't wait for COVID-19 for you to change. Think about all these that I'm discussing with you and add music to your business, because that's what the youth will like. And I'm telling you, the youth will not come to your shop to buy anything. They want to buy at ease on their phone. Things are changing. Again, those doing art, whom we were looking down at school, that they are more not intelligent. The science people are more intelligent. No, the time has changed. So if you have a child at home who is doing more artwork, writing on the walls, nowadays we have abstract designs. Those are the people going to make it. When you go out from here, from the hotel, please look at the artwork and ask the price. And your reaction, your emotional reaction to the price that you hear will tell you whether your right brain is working or your left brain. And why is it that in the hotel they have these wonderful artworks? And in your own home, I'm challenging you whether you have any artwork in your sitting room, in your dining room, in your kitchen, in your bed. You don't have, because the right brain is not working. So I want to test whether you sitting here or you watching me from America or from wherever, Japan, whether you see this, whether your right brain is working or not. Read the sentence in 30 seconds and tell me how many F's that you see. F. The letter F. And I'm sure all of you can see it. I'm going to take it off, and then you tell me how many F's that you saw. Finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with experience of years. Thank you. How many F's did you see? 5, 6? Yes? Be honest, so you are all Christians. Be honest. You saw 4. Somebody saw 3. The normal ones is 3, which is the normal. Now, if you are saying 6, 6, 6, either you have watched me before or that's why you are saying 6. Yes. So you see that finished is F1, files 2 are the result of. The of is 3. Years of 4. Scientific F 5. And then the last of experience of years makes it 6. Now you saw 3 or 4 because your right brain has not been developed either by your parents, at school, or at church. And that's why when you go to off, you pronounce it off, but you don't realize that it is F. And that's what is happening in the COVID-19 era. That if you have a business and you see it as normal business, you have the taxi, you have about 10 of them, forgetting that things are changing. The Uber is coming, Bolt is coming, Yango is coming, and you sit on your taxi in Ghana here, very soon, you have no business. So God in his own wisdom makes the birds fly. And we as human beings, we try to copy by making aeroplanes. The fish also swim, and then we human beings, we cannot swim. The monkeys climb trees and so on and so forth. What is left with us is our brain. So I'm saying that, please let us develop the 2 sides of the brain, Einstein had it. Leonardo da Vinci had it. But what about we? Deliberately, we have produced human beings that are left-sided brain thinkers, but not the right. In your business that you are in, if it's school, a church, manufacturing, communication, whatever, you require these 6 M's as factors: manpower, machines, minutes, materials, money, market. The most important of these 6 is manpower, which is the brain. And the least important is money. Meanwhile, most Ghanaians, if you ask them about business, they say, I don't have capital, I don't have money, I don't have the funding. That's the slogan. And everybody thinks that it is money that makes business. No, it is the manpower, the moral, the ethics that you use to run your business that makes your business run. So I'm giving you all these opportunities that we have, from tourism to drones to funeral homes, this pallbearing. We in Ghana, we are doing so well with pallbearing. Assuming we had understood it, got it up as a nation, and we painted it and we sell it outside. And we had shown it at Mandela's funeral with BBC and VOA capturing all these things. Could you imagine the kind of money that we can make? So please, position your business COVID-19. COVID is even killing us more. Let us find a way of preserving them, the corpse, and using our pallbearers to display in funerals. And then those people will make their money. Salt production, transport, all kinds of businesses are there. One district, one factory, ceramics, agro-processing, floriculture is another area that we have to sell our flowers outside. Yes. If you want to clap better. Yeah. So these things are there for us. Waste management is catching on. And I know Zoom Lion, when he started, it was a laughing stock. But now, he's employing the largest workforce. So if anything that you are doing, you position it well, you should be all right. Agro-processing, I think the government is also encouraging it. Now, if you have the normal business that you have right now, I want you to consider this repositioning. Now, whatever you are doing, please go into the e-commerce side of it. So, because electronically buying and selling products online is now the order of the day. So you open your pharmacy and you think that people will enter and buy. You'll be a joker in the next 2 years. Your company will collapse. If you have your restaurant and think people will come in and buy and sit down and relax, and no, things are changing. So the e-marketing, e-sales, e-banking, even currently in Ghana, we are promoting digitalization, whereby text messages, pictures, and sounds are going to be digitalized. So if you are working in the Lands Commission and bluffing for the past 5 years, my documents are there, you don't want to give it to me, I have to go and come. Now we are going to digitalize it, and within an hour, I have my documents. So what would you be doing in that office? Your daughter went to school and went for ITA certificate. She had the best ITA. Now, in the comfort of my own home and my office, I can get my ticket, even get my seat in the plane. So what's your use? Things are changing. You are doing accounting, finance, and banking, and you think that you've done so well. I wouldn't need you, because on my mobile phone, I can pay in and withdraw easily. I wouldn't need your services. So these are the things that I think I'm talking about for positioning your business COVID-19. What I'm saying is that COVID-19 has come to reinforce what we should have known already. So it's just a little factor. I would call it insignificant. But because it is forcing us to change, let us change. Because we should have changed already. So I'm saying that if you do what you've always been doing in always the same way, and you were getting the same results, again, you'll get the same results. So if you are crying poverty, people are not buying, you don't need to go to church and pray. It is your right hand side of the brain that you need to let you help you change. Therefore, innovate. So in conclusion, it must be noted that any innovations be enjoyed now were made possible through somebody's dream of yesterday. From telephone to mobile phones, mortar and pestle to blenders. All these achievements are the dreams and visions of other people. Whatever business you find yourself in now, be conscious of the change. Be conscious of the fact that we are in the 21st century. We are in the 20th year of that 100-year stretch. And things are changing. There is a revolution, information technology revolution, entrepreneurial revolution, using the right hand side of the brain revolution, and innovate what you have now. So this is my quote. A new century has come up with a new revolution, which calls for new methods of doing things. When do you have to start? Act now. When do you have to act? Now. Now. And remember, I'm speaking from Ghana. So if you are watching me from America, from UK, I want to tell you that Ghana is paradise. It's a glorious home that all nations admire. Ghana is an acronym. Glorious home, all nations admire. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Grateful. Very, very grateful. Doc, you left your mask. Yes. That's the new change. That's the new change. And I like the fact that we keep talking about change. Dr. Oteng-Gyasi says change is predictable, but the worst of all, change is also unpredictable. So while you move forward to wanting change or looking forward to changing, be very, very careful and have your risk plugs on. Next, we will go to a very final speaker before we start our panel conversation. And thank you to all of you on Zoom for your patience. I could see you smiling and laughing along and taking copious notes. That's a good thing to observe. But we want to say thank you also to Sapphire Ghana Limited, Tama BNFT, Dream Oval Homes, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing, Nkulenu CAD Manufacturing for putting their strong support behind us. The Stanford Seed Transformation Network Business Conference 2020 is the annual flagship business and leadership conference put together to make sure that we're changing minds wherever we may find them. And this year's theme is embracing forced change within diverse cultures. My name is Johnny Hughes, and we'll move on next to our very final speaker before we start our panel conversations. David Ofosu-Dorte is his name. He is a senior partner at AB and David Africa. It's a Pan-African business law firm with offices in 5 countries and a network of firms in total of 24 countries. His experience cuts across project finance, the power sector, public policy reform, and public-private partnerships. And beyond law, he also has 2 master's degrees, one in public administration and one in applied business research. He's also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport UK. He has served on the governing council of the Association of Ghana Industries, and between 2013 and 2014, he had the distinction to serve as a committee member on the Nigerian Competitive Council of Nigeria as the only non-Nigerian member. He is an executive of Afro Champions organization, which also spearheaded several organization changes. David, thank you very much for joining us. And key in this presentation will be the African trade area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. I've been enjoying myself so far, and I'm supposed to be speaking on implications of the AFCFTA. Thank you for inviting me. I don't know whether it's a sign that it is my left or the right side of the brain which is working. Hopefully we will know by the end of the day. Having said that, I consider this a little chat we are going to have. I'll try and do this in some 20 minutes as I was told, as much as possible. But having said that, the Africa Free Trade Area, AFCFTA or CFTA for short, is part of Agenda 2063, being pushed by the African Union, which is actually a 100th anniversary of the 1963 meeting in Addis Ababa, where, among other things, they talked about taking Africa to where it used to be before the partition. And this 1963 idea has evolved all the way to 2011 when it was resurrected, 2012 when the idea about creating the trade area started, and finally the launch of the trade area in July last year in Niamey, and with a view to commencing trade in July 2020, which unfortunately didn't happen, and we all know the reason, COVID. That's what we use as an excuse for everything. That's a legitimate excuse anyway. But COVID was part of the crisis that affected the AFCFTA, like it affected many things. And being businessmen, when crises occur, we respond to it in various ways. And at times it leads to forced change, as your team is trying to portray. But good leaders and good businessmen try as much as possible when crises occur to maintain the status quo first, get stability, then plan for recovery, and then look for the way forward, which is where we are before we deal with the AFCFTA. And as the previous speakers have themselves have also indicated, crisis by its very nature creates change. And that's what we are often told. What I have come to realize that change may be triggered by one event, such as COVID, but change never occurs as a result of one event. And anytime you see crisis or anything that is forcing change, whether it is being forced or it is being consciously created, do not look at that event alone. Look at other things which is happening. And that's what I find in my experience that many people lose sight of. So before we talk about AFCFTA, let's just look at what other things were happening at the same time before or at the same time or immediately around when COVID was happening. Apologies, I have to keep drinking water. So on the personal side, you will see, if you take it as Ghana, for example, there was a banking crisis, starting actually all the way from 2015 all through. As a result of that, some SMEs suffered because either they owed the banks or they could not access the credit because some of the banks which collapsed were the banks which serve the SME sector. Then you have a situation where employees suffered, either the employees were working for the banks or they were working for those who were relying on the banks. Then you had a situation where the Securities and Exchange Commission came in, and also some enterprises which were regulated by SEC also suffered. Clearly, deposits suffered in some banks because the people who had income had challenges. Then you had a situation where COVID-19 popped up, and COVID-19 was popping up after the occurrence of these things. Slowdown in businesses occurred following COVID-19. And remember, before COVID-19, I had talked about the banking collapse and SEC. Then there is work from home as a result of COVID-19, leading to a further slowdown in the economy because cars are not moving, people are not traveling. Then there is border closure happening at the same time. No travel. So suddenly you have a situation where a number of things have happened, but we are all talking about COVID-19. COVID-19 may be the trigger of the change, but many things were happening. When you trigger, a trigger is only part of the gun, which is triggering the bullet. But there is the gun, there is the bat, there is the hole out of which the bullet should come. So you have to look at the many things which are happening as a result of which one thing triggers and make that big change, whether forced or created. So that may be at the personal level, but what about the public level? What news were we hearing? And at times the news is so loud that we focus on the news and actually forget that other things are happening. The news can be deceptive. And I often tell people that whenever you want to spot change, never watch the main news, because the main news is never really the main news. Behind the main news is something else happening which is causing the change. So let's look at what was happening in the main news. AFCFTA is one, and I'll touch on that. COVID-19 is one. Risk avoidance is one. Trump is another one. Elections happening in December, whether it will be the same government or new government, whether there will be new policy or old policy, that occupies the news. Data algorithms, Black Lives Matter, Brexit, Africa penetration of internet, digital currency, fintech, Internet of Things. These were the things which businessmen pay attention to, etc. So in the midst of all that is happening around us, then COVID comes, then COVID and COVID and COVID and COVID. Yes, it is the trigger, but were other things happening which we were not paying attention to, which made COVID effect the massive change that it finally effected. Just imagine that Zoom and Teams and all the online things were not there. What will have happened when COVID happened? The movement of Zoom from 20 million customers to 200 million customers was possible because online communication was already there. The first time I used Zoom was 6 years ago, actually. And I have never paid attention to it. It had always been on my phone. I never used it again until COVID happened. Then suddenly, Zoom became a big boom, and its prices and everything skyrocketed. So something else was happening, which COVID triggered. And it's important as leaders, we always pay attention to that. So here we come, AFCFTA. In the midst of all the things I have mentioned, you have to look at AFCFTA from that angle. And that's when you either see the opportunity or otherwise. So what is AFCFTA? Single continental market, 54 countries suddenly trying to trade as one. 30 or so odd of the countries have ratified. Free movement, eventually a customs union, a larger market, tariff-free, duty-free, etc. Now, that is supposed to be a larger market, but is that really a larger market? It depends on what you see. Some people still do not see a larger market. Let me illustrate. There are 1.27 billion people living on the continent. If you have a continent with 1.27 billion people living on it, does that look like a market to you, or it looks like too many people? It depends on how you see it and which part of the brain I think is working, to quote the previous speaker. There are many who see Africa as having a GDP of 3.5 billion. That's what we are told. So as a result, you see our heads of states are always invited to one European country, India or China, etc. But real economies do not measure GDP. They measure purchase power parity. And Africa's purchase power parity is 6.6 trillion and not 3.5 billion. But even if you measure it at 3.5 billion, it is still larger than that of Russia. Now I want to ask a question and I want to see how many people know the answer. How many countries are in G20? If you know the answer, just raise your hand. How many countries are in G20? The number may give you an answer. How many countries are in G20? 20. How many countries are in G8? Who thinks the answer is wrong? Yeah, how many countries are in G20? Maybe you've heard me say that before. How many countries? How many? 19. Who said 19? The answer is correct. Why do you say that? Oh, you just Googled it. Okay. There are 19, and G8 is 7. Because it's 19 countries plus Europe. And 8 countries plus Europe. Europe is considered, because they have one union and one big market, is considered as one country. So the so-called big industrial countries gather, call Europe as one. And Africa is never called, and they call 3 or 4 of our heads of states who then come, and there's conviviality, and that's the 8 largest economies, or 8 industrialized countries, or 20 industrialized countries. But that's 19, not 20. So if Africa were to become one as a trading bloc, and we were to industrialize and see each other as one, 6.6 trillion immediately makes us about the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. But that's not how we see it. It depends on which side of the brain. I'm borrowing your words. It's working. Now, in this market, is the demand really there? I'll just use 2 items to illustrate. Urban food imports, and I mean urban, I mean people who eat in urban areas. You know how urban food is? fast food. I want to, if you want, you take cocoa, they put it in the polythene, which the doctors advise you against, but you nevertheless do. Tie it, buy the kose, or you buy Wachi Express or Cocoa King, you are on the move, quick. The demand for imported urban food alone, as of today, is $35 billion. And it's growing at a rate projected to hit $110 billion in 2025 and $150 billion in 2030, based on the results of how fast the urban areas are growing. These are certified figures. They are not figures I'm creating. So if you have a situation where the urban demand is growing, and why is that growing that high? Because it's not magic. Because Africa has got the fastest growing cities in the rest of, the whole world. Nigeria alone, Lagos alone is about 22 billion people. That's Lagos. I met somebody who started baking bread in Lagos. And he said in less than 6 months, he realized that in the area he stayed, in mainland Apapa area, he could bake 300,000 loaves every morning. That gives you an idea of urban food consumption. So if you want to look at the market, it's not far from you. Kelewele can be packaged. It's as simple as that. That's how I see life. And I will explain to you. The opportunities are all over. And if you can move it to a bigger market where you export it, and I'll show you where it is, that becomes even a much bigger market. Then you come to talk about agriculture, which is 15% of the economy of Africa. Currently estimated at about $200 billion. And is expected to hit $1 trillion in terms of agri and agri-products by 2030. That's a market which is what goes after quadruple. You can find the word. Okay, I don't know which side of the brain I need for that, but then manufacturing. Manufacturing is expected to hit $1 trillion by 2025. And by manufacturing, I'm not talking about very heavy industries. I'm talking about light industries and all those things that are value addition that we need to. So the opportunities are there all over. Combined consumer spending is currently at 2.5 trillion, expected to hit 4 trillion by 2025. So as to whether there is market, if you count it by time, in terms of size of population of people, in terms of the volume of trade or the volume of consumption already going on, it is there. How do you identify that these things are there? Let's think too far. If you have the markets coming together, I take very simple things, and I'll take transportation, cheap power, digitization, value addition, and removal of non-tariff barriers. But I'll skip that quickly, and I'll tell you why. Because that belongs to the big things that governments will do. I just want to focus on how we ordinary people can identify the opportunities. Number one is feeding. Everybody eats. It's the first most important need of every human being. And I've already given you the figures on urban consumption alone. I'm not talking about the consumption of the entire population, just people who live in urban areas. And again, if you still are using old data, Africa is gradually getting urbanized. Now, more than 50% of the people live in urban areas. For most of the countries, about 55, 45 now. It used to be the other way around. So you need to recognize that things are changing, and urban food consumption is more about processing and delivering it online and delivering it through online orders, etc. All right, so eating, clothing, because 1.27 billion people will wear clothes. And clothing is not as simple as that. 400 million people who are blacks live outside Africa. So Black Lives Matter is not just an American revolution. It leads to a demand of goods made in Africa. And the easiest thing you can export outside Africa is clothing. You don't even have to wait for AFCFTA for that. AGOA is there. It's already there. People are doing it. So again, once they remove the tariffs and remove all the barriers, it becomes much easier. But if you are not doing it now already, it will not be easier for you when the thing starts in January 2021. That's not the time to actually prepare. The time to prepare is during this COVID period. That's why I'm analyzing how many things are happening at the same time. Housing. With mega cities, people must live in specific areas. Moving. People must move. And moving includes communicating with each other. it doesn't matter whether COVID is making us stay at home or not. The human nature, by our nature, we like to talk to each other. It's as simple as that. And talking to each other comes with digitization, phones, so many things, online trading, a number of things that result from that. And as a result of that, value creation. So if you identify all these things, then you ask yourself, is it good for 54 or 55 countries, depending on who is counting? Let me use the AU figure, the 55 countries actually. Many people keep saying 54 because the AU recognized the Arab Jahari Republic, which is formerly called Western Sahara. It's a member of the African Union. So I'll use the 55 countries. Now, if you look at 55 countries, 30 of whom have ratified the agreement to come together, then you are looking at a huge market already building. And don't worry whether it's even 2 countries you want to deal with, even if 2 people ratified it. But by the way, we needed 22 countries to ratify it to make it, and we've already crossed that 22. And at times people make too much fuss about it. The United States of America, which I believe has hit its peak as an empire, quote and unquote, that United States started with only 6 states before it became 51. So you don't need all the people to come together in order to start a revolution. It has already started, as the previous speaker said. Now, when you have identified a huge opportunity, recognize something, it comes only for the prepared. And for the prepared, opportunity has 2 effects. If it is advantageous, the prepared take advantage of it. If it is disadvantageous, because it can be disadvantageous, the prepared suffer less. I want to repeat that. It's always best to prepare, because and at times we make this constant, we say every problem has an opportunity, or that's true, but every solution creates a problem. And you need to understand that. So no matter how good AFCFTA is, which I have talked about, there will be a problem also. Every solution creates a problem. So for example, if you have duty-free, tariff-free, and for example, you manufacture this in Ghana and you want to export around the African market, that's true. But that means the person in Kenya can also export here. And if you are not prepared here, it means it's a problem for you. But if you are prepared here, it's good for you. It simply depends on which side of the brain you are using. So for those who prepare, opportunity is good for them. But for those who prepare also, even the bad side of opportunity affects them less, because at least you are able to withstand the threats and all the challenges. So it's important to prepare. And that's why I tell many people, I went to a lot of some of these online, and they are talking about COVID and the business continuity plans. And one occasion I had to speak and I said, COVID is not the time for you to do a business continuity plan. If you are doing a business continuity plan during COVID, then you have a problem. COVID was the time to do a business transformation plan, because you ought to have had a business continuity plan before COVID. And during that period when we were all home, that was the time to think about what happens after COVID. I think last week or so, I had occasion to speak to a group of people on business in Africa, the decade after COVID. And we discussed some of these things. Anyway, let's come back. And you find that there are some countries who are much more prepared than other countries. So countries which, for example, trade with each other. In terms of within the country, people like to buy from each other. The supply chain is already locked in. They will benefit, much, much easier. Especially when the supply chains in China were blocked as a result of COVID. You realize that these countries transitioned very easily than the others. That's what I will call preparation. It may not be conscious preparation, but nevertheless, it is a fact. So you have between now and end of the year, when trade starts in January 2021, that's the new start date, to actually put the preparation in place if you want to take advantage of it or to suffer the adverse effects less. So yes, what will AFCFTA mean to you? I've already identified the advantages, and as I said, I want to try and keep this short. It will mean different things to different people. It will mean to you, if you see it as a problem, it will mean to you a huge problem where businesses from other countries will come and take over your business. If you see it as an opportunity, it will mean an opportunity for you to expand into the markets and take bigger advantage of the market. But it means that you need to prepare, as I've indicated. And preparation means that you have a mindset that recognizes the things that you need to do. And some of those mindsets must overcome the very traditional things that we believe in. For example, one of the things we believe in is this so-called comparative advantage. I don't believe in comparative advantage. I think it's an outdated economic theory. I believe in competitive advantage because advantage can consciously be created. And if you understand that both COVID and CFTA and all the things happening around it creates a new scenario, then ask what competitive advantage can you create for some of the things I have outlined or some of the things you yourself see that I do not see. It requires a conscious effort to be able to create that advantage for yourself and not just rely on the traditional theories of comparative advantage. So for example, if you look around there was a publication of a report recently. Somebody just did a study of all the shops in Accra and realized that only 13% of items on the major supermarkets are made in Ghana. Now, what does that mean? To somebody, it will be just news. To somebody, it's an opportunity to now realize that local content is being already promoted by the government. And for me to insist as a business association, as an example, how to sell more of the local goods or how to upgrade the goods and fill the market, the shelves, which are 13% and increase that all the more. So having said that, I want to emphasize on this point again over and over, that it is very, very important to recognize that the decade following COVID is a decade where a lot of changes are either occurring or have already occurred. Fourth Industrial Revolution, Brexit, etc., COVID, and now AFCFTA, if you are in the African continent, with all the opportunities that it comes. At the government side, certain things have to be done. Reducing cost of borrowing, access to power, cheap power for industry, etc., etc. But on the personal side, a recognition of the opportunity and preparing to be able to take advantage from the very simple things before we get to the complex things. Those are the things that are very important for the business persons. And be very, very mindful about the mindset that you form. Now, the mindset issue takes me to what the previous speaker said, and it's a very interesting part. This is a situation where he was talking about a country declaring itself as highly indebted and poor. And that was a few countries which signed that. I thought that was the worst situation, but I happened to be working for the government of Liberia around that time. And they had a different description. They were called Lycas. I don't know how many of you know what Lycas means. It is the grade after HIPIC. It is a low-income country under stress. That's the description. Low-income country under stress. Now, if you live on a continent where there are 1.27 billion people, $6.6 trillion purchase power parity, and the continent is coming together in terms of trade, whether you have become a highly indebted poor person, or low-income person, depends on the opportunity you see and how you take advantage of it now. And that's how I see AFCFTA, and that's how I encourage all of you to see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir David. One more time, please. Let's hear it for David. Woo. Now we're getting closer to our panel conversations. And again, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you very, very much indeed to Sapphire Ghana Limited, to Tama, BNFT, Dream Oval, Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing, Inkulenu, and Cut Manufacturing for supporting this flagship program and for passing on all of that knowledge. We've spoken about how to embrace force change within diverse cultures. Also, we've spoken about how to scale up and positioning your business post-COVID. And now you've listened to the African Free Trade Agreement conversation. Next, we will get into a Q&A with our 4 panelists who will tell us more if you have a few questions on your mind. But first, I'd like for you to watch something on the screen. Once we're at that, the West Coast Band will give us some music while we get the arrangement on the road. Thank you very much.
guess you wonder where I've been. I said to find the love within. I came back to let you know I got a thing for you and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the days from your love, you see. I came back to let you know I got a thing for you, my love, and I can't let go. Some people go around the world for love, and they may never find what they dream of. What you would do for love. You tried everything, you don't give it up. In my world, it's only you. I got a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know I got a thing for you and I can't let go. Some people go around the world and search for love, and they may never find what they dream of. What you would do for love. You tried everything, you don't give it up. In my world, it's only you. I got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Do for love. 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 Make me do this for love. Do for love. Do for love. Do for love. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, make me do this for love. Ba, do, ba, 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 do. Ba, 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 ba. Do for love, baby. Do, 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 ba, 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 do.
Thank you very much, West Coast Band. And now we're getting on to our panel conversation. Remember that we're live on Zoom, on Facebook, at Stanford Seed. We're also on YouTube, and we're coming to you live from the Marriott Hotel in Accra. it's a limited number in here. But for those of you out there, you are in the multitudes. And this is the Stanford Sea Transformation Network Business Conference. It's a flagship program that happens year on year. And this year we've chosen the theme, Embracing Forced Change Within Diverse Cultures. You've listened to 4 amazing speakers. Now we get to the point where we'll invite your questions for them, but we'll kickstart some of the questions. I'd like to say thank you to Sapphire Ghana Limited, to Tama BNFT, to Dream Oval, Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing, Inkulenu, and CAD Manufacturing Limited. And we'd like to say for all the support, we are very, very grateful. And you know my panelists already, but I would quickly go over them one more time. Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyasi is the CEO of Tropical Cable and Conductor Limited. Thank you very much, Doc, for being here. Also, Miss Esther A.N. Cobbah is the CEO of Stratcom Africa. Thank you, Madam. Dr. Michael Agyekum, CEO of Mikaddo Holdings Limited, what we know as Kama Group. Thank you, Doc, for coming. And also, last but not least, David Ofosu-Dorte is a senior partner, AB and David Africa Continental. David, sorry about that. Now, for those of you on Zoom, you can always join us with your comments and questions because the chat section on Zoom is properly activated. But I'll start this round with you, Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyasi. And we're looking at how to pull together a sea of young people, try to reorient their minds and try to get them to adopt new things and new ways, industry related, for them to be able to have those employable skills that we're looking for to effect the right change in the future. How do we go about it?
I think we have heard about the tremendous opportunities which COVID in itself and AFCFTA have brought to Africa and really to the world, because at the end of the day, other people will be seeking to take advantage of that. The point is our young people. What are young people doing? And I'd like to point out just 1 or 2 things they should do. I mean, we made much mirth out of Dr. Agyekum's observations. But one thing which struck me very strongly when he was making his presentation is the fact that even if you are not all right-minded or all left-minded, you know, or you are not using the right side or the left side of your brain together, nothing stops 2, 3, 4 or so people, young people, from getting together with different talents and pooling your talent. The problem is that we don't seem to see enough of such cooperation amongst our young people. The question is why? Invariably, you find that they complain after they have made a little money that this person was cheating and this person was keeping the money. There's a very simple solution to it. And that is why there are lawyers like AB and David. There are things like shareholder agreements. They don't know. Somebody has to train them that even before you start the business, there are 4 of you. You are pooling your resources. Even before you've made a penny, you decide that if we make a penny, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to reinvest it? Are we going to share it? And so that you have clear-cut rules. And that is very, very important. You need to have clear-cut rules amongst yourselves right from the beginning. And if we have that kind of training for them, and it's not enough to just give them entrepreneurship training. You need to give them management training as well. And this is part of the management, legal, the possibilities of what they can do together. I think that will help.
Thank you. Madam Esther, so you have agreed to come together to start a business, young people, enthusiastic, you have a drive, but at some point you want to scale up. And then you have the quagmire, it gets mired, you want to also manage your cash flow. You've done this. How do we do it?
First of all, you have to understand the context in which you're operating and what the context requires. And you heard in what I said that the culture around you dictates the human needs. You also have to understand the people within the organization. You don't think of the finances only. That is what happens a lot of the time. People go into business or people want to scale up and they think that, oh, it means we employ more people, we buy more computers, we get a bigger place. You get all that. It's people who are going to work in with those things. So you have to be people-minded. And once you do that, you also look at what the opportunities out there are and how you can leverage that to scale up. You don't have to put all the money you have into scaling up. Abba, it's everybody is scaling up. So I'm also scaling up. You need to strategize effectively. Make sure that you have the right people. You understand the context in which you're going. Do you have to go to every part in Ghana? Do you have to go into every country in Africa? There are companies that can stay in one country and be impactful in many other countries. Look at the nature of your business. Look at the finances available to you and look at the people that you have and strategize effectively.
Thank you. Strategizing effectively. Doc, the conversation about technology, you spoke about it and heartily so. Is technology being overemphasized? And the context is our Ghanaian setup where people want to see to believe. They want to touch and feel to be able to say they have actually experienced it. So if they go to an eatery, they would want you to put the ladle in the soup and stir it so that they can see all the encomiums in there. Are we overemphasizing technology?
Thank you. We are under emphasizing technology, rather under emphasizing. Because where we are going in the 21st century, I keep warning you that it's a revolution, and it's information technology revolution, using the imaginative mind to understand it and grab it, use it for the benefit of all of us. Otherwise, with the physical things that we are doing, soon the technology will overtake you. And whoever, with this free African trade thing, this person in Ethiopia will be flying Ghana Airways for us on our behalf because we are sitting down. And he is going to take advantage of the knowledge of technology to produce more products and services and then finish you. The competition is going to be so great that we need to use the software more. I'm telling you that financing, banking and finance, ITA, whatever, everything is changing and using technology. So I think that we are not rather overemphasizing. We are under, and we need to make sure that we understand the dynamics of what is happening now.
Dave, how do we whip up the interest of young people in this whole trade agreement, continental thing? I think it's for the big people like you, like Dr. Oteng-Gyasi, like Esther Cobbah, like for Dr. Addo. So they don't seem to care about it. They don't even want to know that the secretariat is here. What do we do to them?
Actually, that's a completely wrong way to look at it. Yeah, it's a completely wrong way to look at it. The young people are more interested in it than you think. And just
I'm looking at the quantum of the young people.
Yes, and I'm going to give you examples. And you see, they are more interested in it, and indeed are doing it much more than us.
Okay.
Now they live in a digital world. Most of us at our age are now getting used to the digitization. I know people, I don't want to mention names, who are exporting already. They are not waiting for AFCFTA. They've been exporting already. I know somebody in Ghana who, a relative, so to speak, who prints T-shirts and is sold in Kenya. I know somebody who does bikinis and is sold already across, is ordered across the continent. And there's nothing like AFCFTA to them. They are already in groups where they talk to each other across the continent. So We are the ones who are now bringing the 1963 idea and now trying to look at tariffs, etc., etc. Yes, when we make it, I mean, easy, they will come into it. And like Dr. Oteng-Gyasi said, once we begin to train them about the nuances of business, they will then transition their enthusiasm they already have into business and scale up. So I think it's not too difficult getting them interested in it. Yeah.
There's a question on Zoom for you regarding this one. It says, with these unstable agreements between African nations, how do you facilitate smooth trade? ECOWAS trade is in jeopardy now because Nigeria is shutting its borders. How effective are the laws guiding the bloc markets?
I think this is like looking at the problems instead of the solutions. Yes.
But the reality matters.
No, it is. The reality does matter. There is somebody in Ghana who exports products, and the largest market was Nigeria. And the person happens to be a client, and I go to the person's office, and I mean, she's not very happy. And I asked her because Nigeria has closed the border, etc. The goods are not coming. And I asked whether you've explored African countries. This person ended up exploring three other African countries, and it turned out the volume purchased there was much more than Nigeria. Yes, the problems are there, and that's what our leaders are trying to solve to make it easy. But the businesses must realize and start working towards it so that when the problems are removed, it becomes easier for them to take advantage.
Doc, let me bring the Nigerian context in again. We do know of the unrest presently in Nigeria. Some say it will affect the overall business on the continent because of Nigeria's size, of its economy, and all of that. If they are disturbed, the whole of the African continent, if you like, the sub-region will be disturbed. Do you buy that idea, and how does that negatively affect the African continental trade agreement?
Inter-African trade is that there is a lot more than anybody is measuring. All the eggs eaten in Togo come from Ghana. But when you look at Ghana's exports, there are no exports of eggs to Togo. That's the hard fact. Between Benin and Nigeria, officially, there is very little trade. But until they shut that border, nobody could imagine the quantum. I mean, Benin was importing parboiled rice more than 20 times what its population could eat if they all ate only rice all their lives. And it was going into Nigeria. So what happens is that our leaders are behind the trade in terms of strategy. They either have to wake up and regulate it properly, or with our long land borders, now it's gone quiet. It doesn't mean stuff is not going from Benin to Nigeria anymore. The smugglers are just doing it more successfully. And don't forget that the smugglers are on both sides of the border. So they are just more successful in doing what they have always been doing. So we either get the regulation properly, or it will go anyway, or they will use virtual means when it is possible to do the trade.
And yes, you've spoken about some of the challenges in terms of scaling up and how people get the concept of scaling up wrong. Maybe you'd want to re-emphasize a few of those points. But then, Key, tell me how you work urgently in a society that's laid back. When you start to say, how do you do that?
It depends on who's defining what is laid back. If you work in a community, a rural community, or in Ghana, where the sun is so hot from about 8 o'clock until about 4 p.m., you want to do your work very early. So you wake up very early and go to the farm. You do a lot of work, and then you come home and sit under the tree. Unfortunately, in urban areas, we don't have green spaces, but in rural Ghana, we have green spaces where people go to the farm and come back and relax. If you are not part of that culture, you will define that culture as a laid-back culture because it's too hot to work from a certain time. You have to understand why people work the way they do. And if people are laid back, what is required in the culture of the organization that they are working and help reorient them. And that is why I keep coming back to the mindset and to people. Businesses are too focused on operations, on technology, and money. Technology is important. Money is important. However, it is people who will use the technology. It is people, well, not unless we're getting robots. And therefore, to scale up, we need to scale up our reorientation of our people, because a lot of us also belong to extended family systems where we cover for each other, where if I'm not able to do it, my sister is there to help, my cousin is there to help, my uncle comes in to help, and therefore we can relax here and there. And therefore, we have to recognize that the people we are employing have been socialized a certain way. So when they come into the workplace, we need to re-socialize them. And that requires deliberate investment in our people. And that's an area that a lot of local companies do not want to hear about. The multinationals usually want to do that.
How soon do we need to do this?
Yesterday and the day before. Because that, I mean, in every organization, you're looking at people, process, finance, and market. Who goes to the market? Who takes the goods to the market? It's the people. Who brings in the money? It's the people. A process is useless without people running the process. We need to understand that we have to invest in our people. And how do you reorient a person? By engaging their minds, by understanding them, providing the information that they own resonates with them, and taking their feedback. And that is what many organizations, especially in Ghana, do not want to invest in. And it's primarily because, as I said, everybody thinks they know how to train people. They know how to speak. And therefore, whilst an engineer will not give a bridge to an untrained person to build, they will give the mind of their employees to an untrained social engineer to engineer. And what we see is what is happening. We keep on saying that we're not making profits. It's because we're not investing in the minds of our people.
Thank you very, very much. Investing in their minds. Dr. Ofori-Boateng on Zoom says, I understand Ghana has about 44 different languages, which I believe is hampering our development and increasing our division. So how can our formal and informal educational system be changed to work on promoting the use of our local language to help us develop like China, South Korea, etc.? Doc, we spoke about the renewing of the mind. How do we position our schools? And maybe we'll delve into this one, but how do we position our schools so that right from the get-go, the minds are shaped in such a way that they start thinking like the South Koreas, the Asian Tigers, the big ones? How do we do that?
Right now in Ghana, in particular, most homes want their children to speak English. And it's so dangerous for us, for our thinking, because God in his own wisdom puts the people in that area with a language. And even the way we eat, God has given us the kind of food, fruits, vegetables that we need to feed our system with. So if you keep on changing our language, our dress code, our food, then we, the human beings, we are changing to people's cultures, which they are finding difficult. Very soon, this FGT, whatever you have to, will come to Ghana. because we are copying the Americans. I'm telling you that it's dangerous if you don't really unite. As in Kabo Chief of Unity, I'm promoting within the chieftaincy that we should have one language. And in fact, in Nkrumah's time, we had it. And physics books, I remember we had physics books in Tree, where they were even naming iron cars with Tree names. I wonder if you go to the University of Ghana, we might see some of these books. Along the line, just after the coup, everything started ethnic interests left and right. And now we've lost that path, and we think that English is the best. So if your children speak the best English, you are so happy. Meanwhile, they cannot understand anything. And that person cries in English for fried rice. How on earth can you introduce a talk and a prapransa to such a person? And so soon, see that if you look at the posters, gone too soon, between 25 and 45, because our diet does not fit our system. Diarrhea and constipation together, galore, either constipation or diarrhea, because our food is not the right food for us to eat. So I'm saying that we need to be cultural. And what is our culture? Let us find it out. And before Archbishop Sapon passes on, he is the greatest, one of the greatest anthropologists. Let us get to him as a government, as a nation, to tell us what we are missing and what we need to put in to be the right caliber of people. Thank you.
Are you calling for a change in our curriculum?
Exactly so.
And our pedagogical approach?
Exactly so. Yesterday, I had some national service personnel that I was interviewing to engage on. I said the perception of we, the employers, is that you are going to employ a graduate who cannot initiate, who cannot add on. That's their perception. So if you come in, and of course, you display that kind of lack of initiative, then you are through. So if you are calling for a greater salary increase, what are you bringing on board? What would you do to enhance my business, to warrant that kind of money that you're asking for? So to me, there's so much disparity between academic work and what goes on practically. And we all, as Ghanaians, we believe that what happens in the academic world is different from what goes on practically. And that difference, how do we attack it? I've been lecturing at the University of Ghana, and I'm saying that I don't see any time where students go on excursions. Senior high school's excursions are collapsed, and they will complain that they don't have buses. We have to bring it back to train the right hands of the brain, where I was expecting a question. How do we develop the right hands of the brain?
We'll come to that.
Excursions, we'll come to that.
We'll come to
so
that.
Then I'll drop it
we'll
off
come
here,
to that.
And then we can.
So as David says, so we know our right side of the brain is working.
Yeah, how do you develop it?
We will come to that, but a few comments here. One says reorientation requires training, yet most organizations do not want to spend on that. What is the way forward? And yes, I'm sure you can pick that up. And then it says the process of reorientation and realigning employees is quite tedious and very long. How do you balance that with bottom line issue of labor fight after all the investment, especially when you don't have big pockets like the blue chip companies? Is bonding a good practice? How do you strike the balance, short term, mid-term, and long term? So that's for you. But Dave, this one from William Evans Helm to you. It says he wants to know your thoughts on how the trade agreement will affect professional services in the face of restrictions in local professional certification in areas like law, architecture, engineering, and on and on and on.
I will answer that, but before that, I think it's important to touch on something. Give me a couple of minutes. Part of the problem we face from the questions you've asked actually comes from those of us in this room who've attended Ivy League schools like Stanford, Yale, Harvard, etc. We come with all the big things: internal rate of return, net present value, a discounted cash flow, a GDP, etc. So we tend to make things complex, and because we are always looking at the success stories of others. We forget that Starbucks is just coffee that has been branded because Americans like coffee. And therefore, we ought to be writing about Cocoa King because cocoa is what we like. And Cocoa King, whoever he is, I have not met the person who made Cocoa King or Wachi Express or whatever. That's what we. Now, why am I saying this?
And who writes about them? Who is writing about them?
Then that's what I want. That's what I want the likes of Stanford.
Who's talking about Hajia Muniwa?
Yes, exactly. That's what I want the likes of Stanford Seed to make it a kind of a project, for example. And let me explain why this is important. Because you asked the question as to how we involve people in Africa trade. And let me illustrate this. Africa trade is not, free trade area is not happening because our heads of states wanted it to happen. Listen to this very well. It's not happening because they wanted it to happen. It's happening because they realized that people needed it. Politicians and leaders in the public sector tend to follow the lead that people are already, giving. And let me illustrate. 15 years ago, intra-Africa trade was only 2%. As at the time we were about to start Africa Free Trade Agreement, it was already 18% without the AFCFTA. So the people are trading. Just one example for you to see. Go to Malata Market right here in Accra. You see those big cars. They are conveying agushi to Nigeria. Dr. Oteng-Gyasi talking about eggs. If you know the amount of agushi that is sold between Ghana and Nigeria, it will amaze you. It's not recorded anywhere. Agushi, I'm talking about agushi. Can you imagine if somebody started packaging agushi between Ghana and Nigeria? That's 300 million people who consume agushi. And if you sell it to the urban areas, that's a big idea. You will become the next Starbucks. So we should stop thinking about the complex things and look at the simple things around us. Now back to your question. What was the question now?
So the question is asking with the limitation on professions like law, architecture.
Yeah, I get it.
How do they inject themselves in there so they can benefit?
So the trade agreement recognizes trade in professional services as well, and the first set of services have already been classified, which is construction, banking and finance, tourism, business support services. These are there are 5 of them, but at least I can recall these 4. Now, business support services is a very broad area. Now, the point is that services are already being exported. I export services. I have 5 offices around the continent. There wasn't any CFTA. And if there is anything which is more difficult to set up in another country, it is law. You are expressly required to be within jurisdiction. How did we overcome it? I can discuss that at another time. If you can do law in any other country, you can do any other thing in any other country. So yes, services is part of the CFTA. The first set is what I've mentioned. And people should begin to look at what they can do towards that. And by the way, trade can only exist if it has got services supporting the trade.
Thank you. Doc, final one, and we're wrapping up, maybe your closing thoughts. I have 2 things on my mind. You talked about change and how to push the change on. Now, how sustainable is forced change such that it doesn't break the morale and confidence, and if you like, the culture that's driving the business, so that people think that Doc brought change and he has weakened everything, so let the business do what they can do. How do we change that? How sustainable is that change? And how do we ensure that we don't break the fiber of the company?
You know, the good thing about life and people is that we always have young people coming up. And the young people, where older people see difficulties and they see problems and they see issues, the young are young, they are brave, they are brash, they will take it on whether you like it or not. And so no matter whether the change is forced or is not forced, you'll find that young people want to do new things. I mean, when Linda once started cuddling how many years ago, she didn't see any difficulties, or if there were difficulties, she was confident she would overcome the difficulties. And if she had to do it today, maybe she wouldn't do it at all. She would rather be a bank manager or something. But in those days, you know, when you are young, and that is the good thing about society, it's constantly renewing itself, and the young people take on the challenges. So that's why we say that our youth is our future. And all that we need to do is to give them the chance. Let them know what is possible, what is open, and leave them the governments will have to follow them, like has already been said, and allow them to blaze the path.
I'm told we have overspent our time, but yes, I'll give you your chance. Now, in terms of reorientation, somebody says, we want to reorient, we want to scale up, but nobody wants to pay. Is it free?
The leaders need to reorient. When in our tradition, a chief is named, he's put in a room for a few days and taken through various things, including even how to speak. So a leader who has reoriented will actually even hire the right people. So an employee who will be seen as laid back in one organization will be a very good employee in another. And therefore, all that I want to say is that we need to pay attention to the fact that the consciousness of people is important. The leader should not say the people are the problem. The leaders should examine themselves as well. And we'll see that if we do it correctly, it becomes really inexpensive. Have you hired the right person before with the right orientation? You see that they give you so much value. So you won't talk about how much it costs. You will talk about how much you gain from doing the right thing. It starts with leadership, not just the people.
Dr. Addo, top 3 things you would do to develop the right side of the brain.
Very, very important to me that as a people, we need to do things differently. Even during this meeting, I've seen a couple of things. The screen was looking at this way, and we had to shift it. It requires innovative mind to see it in advance and then act on it. So as a people, if somebody cracks a joke and you don't laugh, what's happening?
Your problem
Always
is bigger than the joke.
end of the joke brings out the substance, but the person doesn't laugh. Called the right hand side of the brain. It's not working. So humor is part of entrepreneurial training, and humor should be encouraged in schools and in churches. Thank you. Humor, riddles, games, these are the things that will change our mindset. If you go on excursions, you see different things. What the eye sees changes the perception. If you've never been to Kumasi, you didn't see how much we value the dead during funerals. If you are in Accra here, you go to funerals in suit. How dare you do that in Kumasi? So if you travel, you change your mindset. So travel is important. I've already spoken about artwork, and I will encourage all of us to start buying artwork. You are driving past an artwork, and you see that, oh, there's this Obama, there's Kufuor, there's this. You admire it. How many of us would stop and say, how much does it cost? I want to have it in my room. If you dare stop and you go out and you say, so this one is 2,000, immediately your left logical brain says, this one, we are 2,000.
It's called sycamonia.
Whatever it is, but because your right brain is not functioning properly, you don't value it. But that's the future. Now I had this guy from Numaba who paints with the lips because he's paralyzed. And I thought that guy is special, Joel. So I put him on KSM just to promote the thing. And he said, oh, one of the senior officials came to Numaba, asked of him, and said, oh, can you draw me? Give his portrait to him. The guy drew nicely. And said, how much does it cost? So what comes from your heart? And he gave him 50 cedis. Can you imagine? A whole big portrait. And the guy was telling me, even the frame alone cost him 100 cedis. Let alone the paint, the ink, and then the brush, doing with the lips. And that thing should have cost him about 1,000. He gave him 50 cedis because the guy's right mind does not work. So right now, we should promote artwork. we should promote it. So everybody should have an art piece in the sitting room and in the kitchen and in the bedroom. Can you imagine 30 million people, let us say those who can buy, will be about 20 million, promoting artwork, patronizing artwork. Can you imagine? Then again,
finally, Doc.
Finally, music. These guys will come, compose their music, especially at the churches. And then one Sunday, they said they are launching the album. All the church members will sit down. They will come, display, play the drums. Then they said the first cassette, goes for 1,000 CDs. Then you use the left logical brain to analyze what is in the music that was worth 1,000. Then comes to 500, they will be sitting down. 200, nobody's going to buy. Then he asked the one sitting by, how much will it cost on the street? And say, 5 CDs. The person will wait until it comes to 20 CDs. Then he goes to say, give me 4. We don't value what goes into the music because our right-hand side of the brain, kaput. So I hope I've addressed artwork,
three things.
Music.
Right.
You go with your wife to a party,
humor.
and then you're saying, oh, there's music. Let's go and dance. Either the woman or the man. He doesn't want to go. Meanwhile, in our culture, they say, Asaboni enkuma sase. So you go and dance. But of late, they say, if it's not gospel, I'll not go. The brain is locked up with the logic. And finally, the way we dream is also bad. All because the way we listen to things about witchcraft from the church, everything about the sermon is around the devil, Satan, and witchcraft. And if you hear some of these things, it means that what your ears hear is what will be implanted in the subconscious brain. So when you are sleeping, you see that somebody is chasing you on end. And then they will go and give testimony the following week. It's because the right answer of the brain, kaput. Thank you.
David, what kind of lobbying?
Madam wants me to add.
Yes.
Flowers, you should value flowers. Because the fragrance coming from flowers can even kill the COVID. And the colors in flowers will also heal our mental capacities. There's so much about flowers, floriculture, that we can export under the free trade thing.
There are a few take. And Auntie Esther has a flower event every year. You should look out for it. It's 4 to 8 November, that is coming up. You should look out for it. Don't use poverty and your left side of the brain to say things that you're not supposed to say. David, what kind of lobbying would you like to see, especially for the Continental Trade Agreement, now that we have given all the pointers, how to scale up, how to survive post-COVID, how to get the inflows, how to manage it. Now we're going global. What kind of lobbying do you want to see?
I think, so I'm a firm believer in businesses coming together to lobby governments. And I've decried on several occasions how African businesses, and especially Ghanaian businesses, look up to government instead of influencing them. I believe in it so much that my doctorate research is actually in that area. So I believe business associations like Stanford Seed, alumni, etc., should come together for areas and actually lobby on those specific things. But having said that, I'm also a firm believer in one thing. If you can do something without government, just proceed. Don't wait for government.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyasi, grateful. Madam Esther Cobbah, to Dr. Michael Addo, and to David Dorte. Thank you very much for your time. We'll now take the vote of thanks. Jemima Nati, the head of events and learnings officer at STN Ghana. She's the CEO of Happy Kids School. Please welcome her as she comes to do the vote of thanks for us.
Good afternoon or good evening. I think that this evening or this afternoon has been worth listening to our speakers. It's been a good time.
And I'm very sure that for those who are even watching us on Zoom and listening, have also had the best out of it. We are so much grateful. We sat there, some of us were laughing, but I believe that we are thinking through everything that you have said to us. And we are going to use this to help us to be able to go through this forced change. Whatever it is, I guess this afternoon is going to get us well prepared and to move forward. Let me first say thank you so much for bringing out all the good, great ideas that you have, your knowledge, your time, and everything. Let me also say thank you very much to Stanford Seed. Thank you so much to STN chapters in other countries who are here with us on Zoom. Thank you to the organizing team. Thank you to all the sponsors, the media sponsors, our STN members who also supported this. And also thank you so much for everyone who is here. I believe that it was by God's grace that we were able to go through all this. It took us some time, but I'm sure that as the organizing team sits there, they are smiling knowing that it has all been well. We are so much grateful, and we pray that at the end of everything, we'll go back home safely and go through everything that we have heard this afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jemima Nate runs Happy Kids School, and she trains children to use the right side of their brains. Yes, so that they don't go around misbehaving. Thank you very much. Indeed, grateful for your time. And on behalf of Stanford Seed Transformation Network, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. This is the annual flagship business and leadership conference that's making sure to pass on knowledge as and when we can. We're also grateful to all the supporters who came to push their weight behind us, to Sapphire Ghana Limited, Tama BNFT, to Dream Oval, Home Foods, Densu Industries Limited, Cleaning Solutions, Type Printing in Kulenu, and Card Manufacturing Limited. Grateful. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's a presentation. Please come up so that you can do it here.
In appreciation of the knowledge that we've gained, I believe all of us have been enriched, and we have a lot to think over after this conference. This conference has been very, very rich, and we want to express our appreciation. We are taking home a lot, and even if we'll forget everything, we'll not forget the fact that we have to let the right part of our brains work. We'll also, yes, we'll also not forget that we have to train our employees, and that we shouldn't let change, we shouldn't wait for change. We should start preparing even before the change comes and seize the opportunities that after is creating for us. Our network businesses want to show their appreciation for all the knowledge that you've given to us. We are very, very appreciative of what you have imparted to us in this short time. And we believe that next time when we call on you, you'll be available to even give us more. So these are all for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. They are all from network businesses, so there's hope for Ghana. So, Dr. Oteng-Gyasi, I think that these are all for you. Madam Esther, Cobbah, Mr. Dr. Michael Addo, and lawyer Ofosu-Dorte. Thank you so much. It would appear that we are celebrating Christmas in October. This is a lot of things, and we are sincerely grateful. When the things were being brought, Dr. Oteng-Gyasi and I were imagining that they were going to be given out as awards to some of the members. And we thank you that you have given us awards. Awards are the order of the day. And they call them awardpreneurs. So without having to pay anything like
people have to pay to be given the award. You've given us all these things. Thank you so much. We pray that God will continue to bless the works of your hands, establish the businesses that are involved in this network, the businesses that have contributed this, and prosper all of you. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Looking out across the night time, see the wind sleepless eye. Hear voice shake my windows, sweet seduce inside. Get me out into the night time, for walls won't hold me tonight. If this town is just an apple, let me take a bite. They say why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? Why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? Reaching out to touch her shoulders, electric eyes everywhere. See this town, it's just an apple. Let me take a ride. Why? Tell them that is human nature. Why? Does it do it away? Why? Tell them that is human nature. Why does it do it that way? Reaching out, touch his shoulders, electric eyes everywhere. See this town, it's just like an apple. Let me take a bite. Tell them that is human nature. Why does it do it that way? Why? Tell them that is human nature. Why? Tell them that is human nature. Why? Does it do it that way? Hey, yeah. When I wake up in the morning light and the sunlight hurt my eyes, something else instead of light feels heavy on my mind. Then I look at you and the world's alright with me. Then I think of you and I felt it's all the way. A lovely day.